Yo, 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 what it do, people? And welcome back to Speak My Truth, Season 2. Now, you might be wondering, wait a minute, this isn't a podcast, it's a blog. And you are absolutely correct. And the reason why I decided to transition from podcast form into a blog is although, yes, through my communication, my voice alone, I can really communicate and convey and really depict that image or my perspective of my reality. I felt like it was incomplete or it was a disservice to you, the audience, because you weren't seeing the full picture. There's a lot of communication that's translated, through my body language and through my appearance that you weren't really capturing, through a recording. So I decided, with this new season, that I really improve upon that, and as far as to my mission, which is to help give you an inside scoop into my frame of reference, the way I perceive and interpret reality, and try to bridge that disconnect that exists between my interpretation and yours. That way you can try to piece together and have a more concrete and more uniform, or at least expansive perspective of the truth. And to do that, through vulnerability and understanding, that's the aim of the game. That's what I'm aspiring to do through this podcast, through this blog, to keep that spirit alive of trying to communicate to you guys, the audience, as far as who I am and my character, how I perceive my reality, and overall just forming that bridge between that gap that exists between our understanding. So with that out of the way, and then before going into today's discussion, just for those who are new and who may not be familiar with the whole idea behind this podcast, this series, well, to put it shortly, like I just said, it's to really be vulnerable and really communicate, my perspective of reality. There's multiple perspectives that exist. The way I perceive the truth is not the same as the way you perceive the truth. I might see one thing, you might see another thing, but at the base level, it's this. But we, through our actions and our character, it shapes our lens through which we view life. And sometimes we assume things or we project our own perspective onto others without really considering or being aware of the other's point of view. So this is, in essence, the way to kind of create that mutual understanding and really be emphatic to one another's perspectives, and really help each other understand, help, at least from my end, help you better understand the way I perceive reality, and in the process, challenge you, encourage you to really seek to understand and be more open-minded to the realities that exist outside of our own, so that way we don't get so confined and fixated in our own perspective and miss out on some opportunities because we're not fully aware of them. So that's the bottom line. In terms of the way I proceed and go about, the way of doing so is through this podcast, and it's really expressing myself and my thoughts, my perspectives, my experiences, and my actions, what I'm doing. I'll just try to give you the whole picture, at least the best I can. Obviously, my actions, if you could see my example, it would speak more on my character, but obviously, I know maybe that might be an eventual thing to do, a more blog of my day-to-day activities, but that be in the works. For now, this is the next best thing, just communicate in person to you live or in recording, when you get this, so. And I always go about this, with no edits. You get the whole enchilada, with the meat and cheese and all the good stuff, no bloopers and all. I go do this in one take, and I really just try to go off the dome. Don't really have anything to really work off. But in this case, with this blog, and in essence, try to be more concise and clear and have a more direction, at least to help corral my thoughts, to help be more effective in the way I communicate them. I do have an outline and an agenda, like far as this topics that I want to communicate on, just big main ideas, main concepts, but it's not really a script that I'm reading off of. Now, all of this is going to be off the dome still. Let's try to be more authentic and realistic. And that's the way life is. We don't really have the opportunity. I mean, we might plan ahead, but at the end of the day, you got to respond and be adaptable and react, or be proactive and take life. So that's kind of like the essence of this, and I think for the most part, there's some ground rules that I'm gonna establish for myself to hold myself accountable to throughout my discussion and throughout the course of this season. To you, the audience, and you can hold me accountable to them as well, and give me feedback and criticism if I fail to uphold these. But as far as what my expectations are for this season and through any season going forward, it's to really be honest and respectful to the audience. Speak with clarity and respect and consideration, and they'll be aware of what I say and how I communicate it, as not to offend or really create any misunderstanding. Speak clearly and openly. Be vulnerable. This is an open space, so I'm taking that risk and opening it up to myself, to you, in the hopes that it helps further advance the understanding and really helps you connect and relate better to me. And then lastly, emphasis on understanding. A lot of conflicts or issues that arise in this world is through a misunderstanding and not really fully interpreting things fully. So that's the goal with this blog. So I hope that I can stay true to that. And if I failed to do so, please feel free to correct me, or hit me up and criticize me on that, so I can do better and improve for your sake and our own understanding. And with that kind of takes away all the minute details, so we can now get into the actual meat of today's topics, which the theme of today, or at least the title presents, is the truth is liberating. In the wise words of Pharrell Williams in his song with Rihanna, Lemon, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. So that's kind of like the vibe for this episode. I'll go more into detail as we progress in this episode, but that's kind of, just keep that in the back of your mind, or just use that as a lens to help you perceive this episode. So before going into what the scope of this season is going to be, I want to just recap a bit as far as season 1, in podcast form. And by the way, for those of you who are unfamiliar or haven't really had a chance to really listen through the whole season 1, I'll link in the description the podcast. So through Spotify or through any other app that you use to listen to your podcast, I'll make sure to link it below. And then feel free to binge through and listen to them all when you have the chance. And I really encourage you to do so. Help you better understand the way I communicate, and also who I am and what I'm trying to do. So definitely I recommend you do that after watching this episode, or in tandem, wherever you feel most comfortable. But yeah, as far as season 1, if I were to describe or summarize the whole essence of that, I think the main word would be awareness. From when I took that step back from my career to really embark on this personal journey, I kind of didn't really have a full understanding of who I am, or where my perception, what influenced the way I perceived the world. I felt like I was just following along and in this system and simulation, and not really thinking and acting for myself. That I was just living up to the expectations of society and what they wanted, and I didn't really understand the way I was scripted, and because of that, I couldn't really inform or really dictate my growth, because I was trying to do so within someone else's script, so I didn't really understand the way it was written. So it was through this introspection and through doing activities like this, being more open and vulnerable with myself, that I really came to the realization that I wasn't really living for myself, that I was following the expectations of society and what they tell us is valuable and what to chase after, and what a life of success is. And it wasn't really my own idea. So even though there's security in place where I didn't really have to think much, I felt like I was just responding to the stimulus and not really making decisions for myself, for my own sake. And that's what made me miserable, and I didn't really see the meaning behind it, because I wasn't the one in charge But I've since then realized and come to the understanding that, I have the capacity to change. I am the one responsible for my life, my experiences, and the way I perceive things, through my actions and my choices and my overall character. That kind of helps define my experience and really define me in my own right. No one else should be responsible for that, because no one else is controlling me or telling me what to do. I have that free will, those human endowments to really be a catalyst for change, and I have all this potential in me to do so. So that's kind of like the big realization. And a lot of these insights that I've kind of gathered and collected through this introspection are kind of shared and highlighted through this book I recently finished reading. That was a Christmas gift, but it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, by Mark Manson. It's though despite what the title may seem like, it's not about a book about not giving a fuck and just going about life carelessly. It's about finding those specific things in life to give a fuck about, and he kind of relays and some of the sentiments that I developed through this introspection. How in society we're told to value everything, and in doing so, nothing really has value. If everything has value, then nothing does, and we're told to chase after these things, and we never really appreciate life for what it is, because we're always on the move, always responding and trying to get the next best things. Never being satiated, because we're told everything has value. So we're just confused. We're going on in this cycle. But ultimately, you got to take a step back and really detach yourself from this kind of perspective and really settle down, find closure and really accept this reality of life, that not everything can have meaning. That, and also especially with our own mortality, life, there has to be something. If you don't live for anything, you'll die for nothing. So that's kind of like accepting that reality, and getting that closure helps liberate you and helps really open your mind. It allows you to really fine tune and identify those things in your life that you really want to give your fucks towards, because you only have so many fucks to give in your life. So definitely, make sure you really take that time to consider for your own self, not under the guise or the influence of society or anyone else. Just at your core, with yourself, heart to heart, be vulnerable, and really identify those key items in life that you want to pursue, you want to commit to fully. It's through like commitment and consistency that you really get results and really cause change. So definitely do that. It's going to take time, obviously, to really recondition and really get crystal clear on those things, but it'll be worth it. That time you invest now, it's going to be worth it in the long run. At least I hope so. That's where I'm, the process where I am now, which kind of leads into the next topic, or which the overall theme for this season and for where I'm at in the stage of my life, which is proactivity. Really being responsible for my life. Being aware of that responsibility. It's all on me. No one else is responsible for my growth and what I do in my life. So being proactive and not letting life act on me, but rather acting upon life, and taking life by the horns and going right after it. Taking the initiative. Not waiting around for that opportunity to come to me. Getting the jump and really committing and fine tuning and really coming to terms with my character, who I am, what are those principles and values that I hold dearly, that really inform and shape my character, and ultimately influence my paradigm and my actions and the way I interpret and experience experience the truth, and what's my reality. And and that's been heavily influenced by the recent book that I also just finished reading, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you are familiar with, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, by Stephen Covey, which is a very transformational and powerful book that I definitely am trying to internalize and really embed those habits into my lifestyle, which is, I think it was important, the first step, to really be aware and understand how I was scripted beforehand, understand the programming that I was in my own, those societies. So now it's time to recondition myself. And now that I have the tools and I'm aware of how to really go about and achieving that self-mastery, those private victories and public victories, how to really gain independence and work towards those mutual agreements and mutual relationships that really they'll spur growth and allow us to create more meaningful results than we could alone. So that's gonna be the challenge. I'm trying to rescript and rewire myself. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of both internal and external resistance, but I'm gonna try to really double down on my character and what I've shared. At least far as if you go back to the first episode of season 1, I kind of share at least what I believe to be my character at the time, or what I hope my character is. So I'm gonna try to double down on that and really make that a reality, and really fine tune and make sure that my principles and values that I live my life by, that they align with my actions and what I do, and really that try to lead a life of integrity, to those values, to those principles. And I understand this is a transformative process, and it's going to require a lot of patience and commitment, and then a lot of self-imposed discipline. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of resistance because I've grown comfortable with this current wiring, the current setup where me is seeking these things that society's claim to be of meaning. And not to say that society is wrong, but really challenge yourself to really think for yourself and consider this really what you want, or is it just something you're chasing after because you were told to and you never really thought about it for yourself. So I'm definitely expect to see resistance from myself, and also from the outside, and from people around me telling me, why am I doing this? You're doing it wrong, or the society's telling me this and that. It's gonna take a lot of willpower, a lot of discipline, but ultimately, like I said, I think it's gonna be worth the investment, worth the time, worth the struggle. You can't experience growth without going through some stress in the process. So I'm prepared for that, but that's kind of like right now. Before, and I'm tired of trying. This is the year where I start living for myself and really making that progress, and for my own right. Not really pursuing anything anyone else tells me, or at least not following their guidelines, more my own, and with that. And then, so yeah, I know it's gonna be endless cycle. We're dynamic creatures, and that change is constant. It's always going around us. This direction of it depends on our actions, whether we're proactive or reactive. Really, we gotta be proactive and take that charge, and really be that catalyst for change, and really pursue and really seek to be better, aspire to be better, to challenge and to grow on a regular basis. So yeah, that's kind of how it is, and really just being vulnerable and open-minded to these possibilities and to this growth, and also be willing to fail, but to fail forward. Use that momentum to carry you forward and onto bigger and greater heights than you could have ever imagined. Have you just not come to this realization. So as far as that's kind of that's in a nutshell, kind of like the difference between season 1 and season 2. So season 1's more of in line with awareness, breaking free from that conditioning, that cycle of society's expectations, and thinking for myself. And then season 2, or right now where I am in my life, it's about proactivity and really taking charge of my life and getting after it. Not waiting for those opportunities to come for me, but really being understanding that of my actions, that I have the potential for growth and change in my life. So jumping on it and making that a reality. So that's not. So now going into some more talking points that I kind of derived from these books and materials, these insights that I've arrived to. So with that, let's get into it. Sorry, all this talking is making my mouth a little dry, so I want to make sure it's clear and concise for you guys, listening pleasures. But so the first kind of question or talking point that I have here highlighted is, what defines one's character? And through what Kobe depicts and conveys in his book, and through what I've myself kind of come to the conclusion, at least through my own personal experiences and insights, is that there are the principles that we internalize, and the values that we choose to personify through our example and through our actions, and what they speak at the core value, and really how the principles and values. I had a little bit of a struggle as far as defining or distinguishing the two. They kind of it seemed that they're used interchangeably in the book, but as I read through it more, it became more clear. And even Kobe himself gives an answer to that question. But at least the way I view it is principles are things that are universal truths that are generally accepted across the entire world. That everyone, I mean, though they might have different translations or different applications or in different settings, for the most part, they're generally accepted for this. So for one principle, I'd say is the truth. That's in accordance with what reality is and what it actually is. Even though we perceive it and interpret it in many different ways, the truth itself is stands alone. It doesn't need any further evidence or support. By itself, it's generally understood to mean this. And then the values are kind of derived from those truths or from those principles, and kind of in a way guide and dictate our actions. So from truth, there's trust and respect and loyalty and fidelity. Kind of being loyal to your word and being integrity. Those are the values that are derived from these principles. So line of what values are also. They're what people stand for. Whereas principles are universal and applicable to everyone, the values are those you choose for yourself, that you choose to highlight through your actions and to really align yourself with. There are motivations for life, and they're what invigorate us and they'll give us that energy we need to keep going. And like I said, they're what gives us our life's meaning and value. And like I said, if you stand for nothing, then you'll live for anything. So might as well dictate that for yourself than just follow blindly what society says. And then just understanding that our character and at our core, they're what, like I said, it influences our perspective and the way we perceive reality. So this understanding the correlation between the character and our values is definitely, and our actions are definitely critical to better understanding how we can promote and achieve growth and great success in our lives. So it's definitely key to really get clear on those things first. Like Kobe says, it's an inside out process to really work inwards and radiate outwards. So that's kind of where I'm at, prioritizing that first. And then, going on. So like I said, I want to, at least for my sake, my character, the way I want my life to be perceived, I want to be someone who leads a life of integrity, that there's no duplicity in my actions or my character, that there's perfect harmony between what I claim to be and what I actually do. So it's why I chose to make this like a value that I champion. It's because it's rooted in the truth, which is a very generally held and accepted idea of what that is. And really it demonstrates my respect to my priorities and to who I am. And it's essential to being a leader, at least I believe so. Through my example, that's kind of the leader that I want to be, someone who inspires and encourages through my example. And if I'm someone who with integrity, that's going to be a lot easier to understand. Be more transformative, and be a servant, be a steward to others. So through my example, really empower them. But that there can't be any deceit or guilt in my character, or else how can others will see that clearly and not really have confidence in my example and not want to follow suit. So that's why it's important that I prioritize and make sure that I'm leading that life of integrity. So that's that topic. The next question is, what do I choose to give a fuck about? What are the criteria for the things I consider meaningful in my life? And to put it simply, they're the things that are in harmony and align well with my character. So that's why it's clear, or it's imperative that I really get clear in my character first to help better assess and identify those things in my life that I want to give value to and meaning to. So that's kind of how I'll define what's important in my life. And then lastly on here, what does extreme ownership mean to me? and know how would I embody this concept and use it to propel me forward. So for those who aren't familiar with extreme ownership, this is a concept, a notion shared in another book that I've read. It's called Leadership Tactics and Strategies by Jocko Willink. It's the field manual. Basically talks about a lot of leadership concepts and strategies to employ, and the big concept he mentions is extreme ownership, which is basically taking full responsibility for your life, for your actions and the consequences of those actions. Taking the blame and really being accountable, self-accountability. And that, how I'm going to use that concept, that notion to propel me forward. But, I understand that growth is a function of proactivity and my ability to prioritize. So understanding that, knowing that I'm solely responsible for my growth, it's I need to make sure that's the direction I'm heading towards, and make sure that I'm fully aware of what my priorities are, what I hope to accomplish, and really taking responsibility and taking charge and the initiative to make it to realize that vision, and understanding whatever happens along the way, it's on me. No one else is responsible. So just assume that and be prepared so I can better adapt and be proactive and respond to the situation as it unfolds, and really ensure that I'm still able to achieve the growth, even if it's not in the way I initially envisioned it. So that's kind of how I hope to use this idea of extreme ownership and apply it in my everyday life. And that's about it. Now it's time for really the wrap up and the conclusion. So like I mentioned, this is the year that I stopped trying and start living. So what I mean, stop trying to really appease to society's expectations or to what others say is the right way to live or what success is. Start living for myself and making those decisions and those defining that for my own sake. And I know this journey just begun. It might have taken a while for me to arrive to this point, and it might be a long journey ahead, but at least I know now that I'm heading in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to what's to come and what I'm to endure, and to what growth I will experience in the process. And that's pretty much it. I want to say this thank you for those who can continually support and listening to this series, from the podcast and now blog. So thank you for following along and really providing me with the feedback. And I hope you enjoy these episodes. Likewise, I just want to shut up, Siri. Anyways, before I was interrupted by Siri, just thank you again for listening and being attentive and really sharing that feedback with me. For those of you who are new to this, definitely appreciate the support, and I invite you to continue following along and staying tuned. If you really enjoyed this episode and liked it, feel free to leave a like, so that way it can gain exposure and be introduced to a further audience, as well as subscribe to be notified to when the new episode comes out. But I'm gonna try to hold myself accountable to really producing an episode every other week. So expect an episode every other Friday. And unless I say otherwise. And I'm gonna put my social media somewhere on the screen, or maybe just in the description. Feel free to follow, and if you have any comments or feedback, you want to contact me that way, as well as just to stay up to date as far as if I make any announcements in terms of the episode schedule or when this new episode comes out. And that's about it. I hope you enjoy this first episode of the blog, and just remember, forward progress is not achieved through complacency. Get after it. You have the potential to create change in your own life, so don't sit around and wait for the opportunity to come to you. Take the initiative, be proactive, and as always, you are amazing, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're kind, you're loving. You deserve happiness, and you deserve everything that comes to you. I hope you have a good weekend and a great start to your week or next week, So with that concludes this episode. I'll see you then. Take care.